Hey, are you ready to become an official college student? Check this out. We have an Accepted Students Day coming up right here at Williams Baptist University on April 10th. At this event, you'll get to create your class schedule, get your room assignment, meet your roommate, be recognized for your academic achievements, meet other future students, and that's just the highlights. You do not want to miss this day. Sign up now, and I'll see you on April 10th at Accepted Students Day.
Welcome to the Lifework Podcast, where we help you discover joy and purpose in your work through Christ-centered insights and practical advice that transforms your career into a fulfilling calling.
Hello, Brother Rhyne. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Brother Stan, how are you?
I am well. It is a beautiful day here in Walnut Ridge, America.
It is. We're in the 70s outside right now. So
it's a great
which,
day.
Coming back from 2 weeks ago when we were in the teens, I'm quite relieved.
Yes, and our listeners may hear the lawnmowers in the background, and that's okay.
Right.
We have people working today, and it's a good day to be out on a lawnmower. Wish I was.
I kind of wish I was too.
Yeah.
So.
But we're here.
Please don't demote me, though.
Oh, no, that would be a promotion in my opinion. So let's talk today a little bit about a big thing that's been going on here for several years now. Our listeners may have heard about this thing called Williams Works. It is an initiative that we launched in 2020. And on the front end of this was an effort to make Christian higher education affordable and attainable to the average middle-class family. It is a way for students to earn their education and to graduate potentially. If they follow the program, there's some protocols in place, but if you follow the program, you could potentially graduate with little or no college debt.
Significantly less debt than you would if you didn't do it.
That's right. So what we want to do today is just kind of feature some things about Williams Baptist University, and that which is on the front face of a lot, not everything, but a lot of what we're doing is Williams Works. So I'm going to put you on the spot here and kind of ask you a fun question. You've been here now 4 years, 3 years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. It seems like 10. It was there. So when you first heard about this as an alum, I mean, you're an alum from the place. When you first heard about Williams Works, what were some of your initial reactions or thoughts about that?
The first press release I remember seeing was about a tractor being given to the school and a tract of land being attached to Williams Works, and I thought, wow, that's unique. That's different. Not what you typically expect from a Baptist school. Tractor donations, that sort of thing. It's sort of a
thank you to Cox family and Cox Implement for that gift.
But I mean, it was certainly out of the box. I mean, since coming on board and being part of what you're doing here, I've come to learn that there are other schools in the country that have kind of taken up this model before. I mean, we look at College of the Ozarks and Branson is one, kind of the ones leading out in a lot of this. But never before had I thought that, something like this would be attached to a Baptist university, much less my alma mater. Yeah. So it was a unique model and still is a unique way to pay for school.
Yeah.
But also, I think the thing that sticks out in my mind is, my first year here, was smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, and there was a significant staffing shortage just about everywhere you went.
Yeah.
When you went into a restaurant, when you went into the grocery store, people, were looking, they were hiring, they were trying to hire people for their various postings and jobs. And one of the things that we kept on hearing was that people weren't really that interested in going back to work. And that
that's true.
And that it signaled in me we kind of have a sort of cultural crisis on our hands, that people need to learn a kind of work ethic, particularly those of us who are believers who know Jesus. I mean, we were created to work. That was part of who we were created to be. And so, I mean, I think one of the more interesting things about Williams Works, aside from the the great benefit of graduating with no or little debt was to be instilled with some characteristics or qualities that would serve you well for the rest of your life and developing that work ethic.
I love that. Yeah, that's right. You know, when I came to Williams, I discovered this incredible jewel, beautiful campus, and even more beautiful people. The people that are here are incredible. Well, you weren't here then. You beautified us even more. But
right.
It is this incredible community, and I want all potential students to be exposed to what God is doing here. But it was a bit of a challenge of, okay, how is Williams going to position itself in the broad landscape of higher education in general and Christian higher education in particular to get attention, to be unique and distinctive? Yeah. And I was here a year, and I still didn't have it figured out. And then there was this, I think I've shared this a lot, a student posted on her social media feed about getting ready to graduate. She was excited, and I remember thinking, I think she was that far along in her program. And I keep reading. I'm graduating my associate's degree. That's a good degree. A lot of people do a lot of things with that, but she was working on a bachelor's, so I didn't understand. I kept reading. Getting ready to graduate with my bachelor's degree. I'm transferring to a local state school to complete my degree. I was just crushed. It was like she sort of epitomized in her actions and her posts a challenge not just for the Williams, but for Christian schools in general.
Yeah.
And so I ran into her a couple of days later in the cafeteria and said, Kristen, you're killing me. Why are you transfer? And she said, we know after going here 2 years, I'm going to be, I think it was like $60,000 in debt.
Right.
And she said, I come from a middle-class family. My parents aren't wealthy. They're hardworking people. We live paycheck to paycheck. We're not destitute, but I'm on my own. I can't keep this up. And it was just kind of like, okay, there's got to be a different way of doing this. And that sort of spearheaded the initiative that we now know as Williams Works.
Right.
And when I share this story and we talk the vision of the program, everyone says how innovative, how creative, this is the way it ought to be, and I agree. Mm-hmm. But for us, it's not overly innovative because I have read the history that one of our esteemed faculty members, administrators, leaders, Dr. Startup, wrote about the history of the school, and in his history, he notes that in the early days of Southern Baptist College, they were working.
Yeah.
They had Dr. Williams had a print shop.
Yeah.
He had a woodworking shop. He had a couple of radio stations. Now, they weren't as sophisticated as today's, but they were radio stations. Right. Had an HVAC certification program in business, auto mechanic repair certification in business. So the idea of this school working in accordance with its mission is not new.
It's tied to its history.
That's right. It's in our DNA. And so we're just kind of resurrecting that and relaunching it with the unique expression that we need for it to have today. So I share this openly now, and I've shared it on this podcast previously, that when I first started thinking about this, as you alluded to a moment ago, a lot of it was driven by the financial concerns of the common student, as typified by that student I talked about a moment ago. But as I've got into this more and more, I have come to appreciate what you already mentioned, the deep, rich biblical teaching of God's purpose for us in working, and then coming through appreciation to conviction of why haven't we been teaching this, to your point? Why haven't we been mentoring students? And for that matter, why haven't we been training pastors in our Christian Ministries department to go into their churches that they serve and to equip and train their people about this? So it's just an ever-evolving thing. It's certainly consuming a lot of my thinking, a lot of my theological bandwidth and reflection. But I'll throw this out to the point you made a moment ago. A friend of mine recently sent me a link to a Fortune, I think it was Fortune Forbes, I can't remember which one, link article. And it was a reporting on a survey that was done of 1,000 marketplace leaders on hiring and work, Gen Z workers. And the article started talking about over half, a great number, over half of those 1,000 that responded, noted that in the last year they had to lay off a Gen Z college graduate. And the reason for the letting them go was they didn't know how to work.
Yeah.
And then they started getting into the details of what did that mean. They didn't know how to work with others. They didn't know what was appropriate attire for their work. They didn't know about appropriate language. They didn't know about showing up on time. The work ethic you mentioned a moment ago, that to your point, I believe one of the greatest needs of our nation, and there are many, but not just an economic need, I think it's a spiritual need, is for this generation to rediscover the blessing of work.
Sure. I think that's absolutely right. And there are some significant generational differences, but I was in college not that long ago. 20 years or so ago, and
that's a long time ago.
You
try to couch it.
I know it seems like an eternity to our students.
I can double that, so it's even longer for me.
But I remember working all the way through college.
Yeah, me too.
That was what I did. That's how
me too.
we paid the bills, and then I worked for a few years, several years afterward to
finish paying those bills.
To finish paying said bills. So it's not an uncommon thing, among Gen Z students, not ours, but Gen Z across the board, that many of them haven't had their first job. Many of them haven't had an opportunity to work, either because they've been displaced from those workplaces or they didn't take the effort to do the things that they're going to need to do to get a job, and things that come with that, like getting a driver's license and driving, and all those things that, again, we just took for granted not that long ago, now seem like they're rarer and rarer qualities.
You mentioned a moment ago learning the value of work and a work ethic translating in many facets of life. And I love to tell the story of our first applicant to Williams Works, Alex Cole, a young man from Manila. We did the press release and announced that within a couple of hours he'd applied. And Alex was admitted, and we featured him as the first one. Wonderful young man, godly young man, a good worker. He was one of those kids that came to us already knowing how to work.
Right.
But he still had a lot to learn. And so he comes here and he works on the farm all 4 years. He's at farm. And he's working on a teacher ed degree because he wants to be a high school civics and history teacher. And so he goes through the farm, and eventually, I think his junior year, they promoted him to team leader, student farm manager, whatever the position was. So now he's leading on the farm. And so he's working, he's going to school, and he graduates. And at some event, his last semester here, his senior year, we asked him to share at an event. And he's talking, I was so proud, he was talking about my workstation really wasn't connected to my major. So I'm a teacher education major. I will be a high school teacher, but my workstation's on the farm. However, the things I learned leading my student team, I think will help me managing my classroom and helping me mentor my students that I teach. And there was just, yes, that
aha moment. Yeah.
You're connecting the dots. We would want that for every student, but
and I could go back to my job in high school and college. I worked at Office Max. I sold paper clips and pencils and that sort of thing, and printers. And I thought, well, this isn't ministry, but it was in that laboratory that I learned how to relate to people, coworkers and customers alike. I mean, those are skill sets that even if you don't think this is going to be my long-term career, and most of the jobs that we have on campus will not be a long-term career for our students, but those are things that they can take away. Those are transferable skills. That's learning how to deal with people, and in a lot of ways, just learning the discipline of doing work, and all those things carry over into a career, or I think it will.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm thinking through what I'm about to say. I'm not sure I'm completely there with the one-for-one equivalent I'm about to make, but I think leaders are those who know how to work, and those who know how to work will lead. I just think, especially in the current culture, people with a strong work ethic, people that take initiative and are disciplined in their work, that collaborate well, that interact with others well in their work, by virtue of doing that, they will lead. And because they know how to work, they become leaders. And because they're leaders, they likely know how to work.
Yeah. I want all my leaders to know how to work. Although
Absolutely.
in our culture today, I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, ideally.
Even in the church.
Ideally, yes.
In the church, you want your leaders working, and they likely are the ones that are working.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm excited about what God's doing here. I've talked with colleagues at other institutions that are beginning to take note of what we're doing and preliminary inquiries. Tell us about what you're doing. And, of course, they immediately want to talk about the financial part, and we talk about the benefit.
Sure.
Both to the school and to the student from this. But then I get into the biblical foundations and then the benefit for human flourishing in it. And I just am all in. I've been in Christian higher education now almost 30 years, both in classroom and in teaching. I can't imagine doing this mission of higher education any other way. Where you are not only focusing upon mentoring and teaching the head, but the heart and our hands.
Yeah.
A holistic, truly whole person integrated model of education. So I'm really excited. Our goal, I hope we get there in my lifetime, is for full implementation. That because of our commitment, that if you come to Williams, eventually we're not there. We have several steps to get there, but if the Lord allows us to get there, that when we are there, you come to Williams, you're going to get an outstanding education. We got all these incredible majors, but all these majors are going to have this laboratory expression of vocation and work. And it's going to be one of the most unique ways of preparing for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And that would be the kind of school I would want my kids to go to.
Sure.
My kids are too old now, but yours
there
just
you
might.
are.
Yours just might.
They're potential customers for sure.
So do you have any final thoughts on this one?
Well, I would say that that anything that we can do to help us align with the purpose for which we're created is a good thing.
Amen.
And
that's good.
Clearly we were created for the purpose of work. We're not created just to know things.
That's right.
But created to work with the things that we know. And so having that integrated model is a positive step, I think, for all Christian education.
So say that again. Created to work with the things we know.
Right.
Did you create? I mean, that's good.
It just came off.
That is good. I see T-shirts with that. That's really good. That's really good. Well, thank you, Dr. Putman. It's a good podcast. Appreciate your contribution.